Firstly, I'd like to introduce this with the fact that I'm one of the few people on Earth uniquely fortunate enough to be able to make this update with 2 copies of the i5 side by side, one in the original unsealed state and one upgraded. This vastly helps cut the BS, so to speak. When people upgrade their cables or earpads, for example, too much time passes between auditioning previous and post states or vice versa, leaving too much room for error. The human brain is far too unreliable to make these comparisons based on even short-term memory. If by some miracle you are able to change the cable in less than 5 seconds, then great, there's an argument to be made there. But nobody can swap a set of earpads in less than 10 seconds, much less a set of bass sealing foam rings. Having 2 headphones allows me to slide one off my head and listen to the other with a time gap of around 2 seconds, giving me a very reliable comparison. With that out of the way, these are my impressions. The first most obvious thing I notice is that the bass ring reduces the bass. Let me explain. I know this sounds crazy, but it's not. I think because the bass is now linear and missing the boosted hump around 80 Hz, the bass appears to be tighter, more polite, and has a shorter decay. The unmodified bass has a longer, slightly boomier sound, but not in a horrible mid-bassy boomy way. This is the kind of low boom that sounds great, like it gives instruments more body, like how they sound when they are playing in a room. It gives the music a certain three-dimensionality or a bigger sense of staging. The corrected sub-bass roll-off does not automatically translate to more bass overall, because most of the bass we hear in music recordings doesn't happen below 60 Hz. When playing electronic music, where these frequencies are more dominant, yes, the bass mod does incrementally improve the volume of frequencies below 60 Hz, but it still sounds like it's got less bass overall. So this is one such case where what looks like more is actually less. Going on to mids, specifically vocals, I personally think vocals now sound too thin. I'm reminded more of headphones like the HD600, which aim for greater technical acoustic fidelity at the cost of what actually sounds good to the masses, or at least what sounds good to me. I think treble remains largely unaffected in its overall presentation, but the mod ring does appear to actually smooth out the peak a touch, so the ring actually has the total effect of reducing the V-shape in the sound. I'm happy to say that imaging hasn't suffered at all, with left and right placement and spatial cues in my head sounding about the same. If there is a difference, it's too small to pick up. However, the scale of the staging and sense of air is where things go a bit downhill for me. The original i5 just sounds bigger, more lively, more vivid, and going to the modified i5, my honest reaction was, damn, this mod just turns these into another normal headphone. I'm tired of normal headphones. I don't want to hear another boring hi-fi man, polite moondrop, or warm ordersy. What I got with the original i5 was truly unique among planars with its spirited lifelike performance. The mod seems to add a desaturation filter to make a photography analogy. I don't think the mod turns the saturation all the way down. The post-mod i5 still has more drama than most headphones, which is why I think the i5 pre- and post-mod will get equal love, just from different people with different goals and tastes. Now, if you want to get really spicy, you need to perform modception. You take Fosi's bass ring mod and modify that, taking you to levels of modification previously thought impossible. First, you need a guitar pick or plastic spudger or toothpick and slowly push the foam tape inwards. And you probably need to peel off a slightly wider area than you think to make space for a plastic straw or something similar. I'm using some medical tubing, which is a bit stiffer than a straw, so it can't be kinked. I put my vent at the bottom where it won't be seen. That was my only methodology. There is only one main benefit to performing this mod: deep bass. This is the best bass I've heard from the i5 so far, with the hump focused at around 50 Hz and remaining powerful at 30 Hz. So it's easy to tell that all electronic music sounds so much better. However, vocals and instruments are still taking a back seat in presence and lack the brilliance of the original stock version. This vent mod also adds a small peak around 7 to 8 kHz and strengthens the upper treble around 10 to 12 kHz, making it even more V-shaped. As a side note, be aware that the pressure for adding a vent will compress the foam in that area, so going back to linear bass will not be possible without filling the dent with something like blue tack. Then, finally, if you have the original unsealed version without the bass ring, don't even bother adding vents, as the only thing that will do is create the same treble peaks and do nothing for the bass. That's it for now. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.